Turning back to our biggest story of the day, Republicans and Democrats in the House, and in the Senate for that matter, have painted two very different pictures of the just-passed economic bill with much of the Trump agenda. Earlier, I spoke with South Dakota Republican Congressman Dusty Johnson. Paint a picture of what America looks like economically 1 year from now because of this bill.
I think we'd see increasing growth. We really do need that. Clearly, the deficit is a problem. Hopefully, people on both sides of the aisle acknowledge that. The solution, Major, is to try to hold the growth of governmental spending to 1% while you're growing the economy at 3%. Over time, that'll slam the jaws of the monster shut. That's why so much of this bill is focused on pro-growth, because we've just got to move that way.
Dusty, in the Trump years leading up to the pandemic, meaning 2018, 2019, when the tax cuts were implemented and in effect, GDP growth was 2.8% and 2.6%, not 3% in either of those 2 years. Does that in any way give you caution about what this bill is going to do, and might you fall short of the OMB, meaning White House economic projections of 3% or higher?
Well, 3% is no guarantee. Like, you really have to have an economy humming to do 3%. So, yeah, that is a bit of an aspirational goal, and yet it is absolutely achievable. Maybe it's 2.8% 1 year, maybe it's 2.9%. As you alluded to, though, I mean, during those earlier Trump years, there was some really robust growth. We saw wage growth growing much faster than inflation, so people were getting more purchasing power. That's not what we have seen in the last 4 years. So getting back to some good wage growth would be exceptionally good news.
Dusty, help my audience understand, because if they went to sleep last night, they could have seen on their phones reports of anywhere from 8 to 10 House Republicans who were no or leaning no, and when they woke up, they were all gone, and they were all for the bill. How did that happen?
Well, when a bill first, when members first start to contemplate a bill, they compare it to a perfect bill. What would they write? What do they want to see in it? And over time, as you get closer and closer to the deadline, you realize that that's kind of an absurd comparison. You really need to compare the bill before you with failure. You only get a yes vote or a no vote. And so as the holdouts realized that their no vote could kill the whole kit and caboodle, they understood that would be a shame. That would raise taxes on 80% of American families by an average of 22%. It would wash down the toilet all the investments in border security. It would eliminate, or it would undo the $1.6 trillion worth of mandatory spending cuts we desperately need as a country. That's how they got to yes. They realized they could not let perfect be the enemy of the good.
Ralph Norman, one of your colleagues from South Carolina, was on CNBC earlier today, and he said two things happened overnight. One, President Trump said he would address flaws in the bill through executive orders, and the president told those who are holding out, if you send it back to the Senate, it will only get worse. Is that true?
Yeah, I think sending it back to the Senate would probably make it worse. The reality is we have built a tenuous political balance here. You see in the Senate, they had 1 or 2 moderates and 1 or 2 hardline conservatives vote against the bill. And so it was right to the point where if you moved it one direction or the other, you might lose 7 or 8 votes on that side or the other. And so there was just no guarantee that failure in the House was going to make success more likely in the final product. And yes, Donald Trump, listen, he's the best closer in the business. He is a singularly powerful political figure in modern America. And when he explained, I was at the White House for 2 hours yesterday as he was talking to members about the value of getting this bill passed, the value of having these pro-growth policies, and while failure would be so bad for our country.
But can a president, through executive order, change legislative product?
Oh, no, I mean, the words on the sheet mean what the words on the sheet mean. I think what Ralph meant is that if there was a gap in the bill, something the bill didn't address that Mr. Norman wanted addressed, that maybe there were areas where the administration could do that through another mechanism. By the way, we've been having those conversations, not about executive orders, but about other legislative vehicles for months through this debate. Maybe there were some things the parliamentarian kicked out, so they can't be in reconciliation. Okay, rather than complain or pout, let's figure out another way. Does this this make sense to include in the farm bill? Does this make sense to include in the annual defense bill? Does it make sense to include in the final appropriations package of the year? I mean, we do work around here every week, at least we're supposed to. And so just because you miss one train doesn't mean that you've got to give up hopes on getting your good policy done elsewhere.
Dusty, quantify the aspect of this that came down to political fear. You just can't cross Donald Trump if you're a Republican?
Donald Trump is a singularly powerful political figure in modern America, but that is, I mean, you never really want to cross the president of your own party. Democrats didn't cross Obama very much. They didn't even cross Biden very much, even as it was clear that he was becoming much diminished. It just, there is a sense that if you're going to get big things done, you got to do it as a part of the team. Sometimes I wish we viewed the team a little more often as America rather than the shirts and skins politics we have around here. But I think it's natural human. It's a part of the process out here.
Dusty Johnson, always appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.